the fact that many of the jobs and job roles that come with a lot of respect and come with a lot of prestige in our society, what we have to remember is that there are a lot of other jobs that don't require the same education, don't command the same income, but are still required to make society work. And I think we saw this during COVID. But with the hospital, for instance, yes, the doctors and nurses deliver the patient care primarily, but you still need nursing assistants, maintenance staff, groundskeeping staff, security guards, especially in urban environments. You need all the administrative staff that does patient data input, et cetera, et cetera. You need all these roles that don't require degrees, don't get paid as much, in order to deliver a quality patient experience and in order for the doctors and nurses to be able to focus on their jobs and do their jobs. And if you can expand that out, obviously, to society as a whole, you need the police officers, you need the people who pick up the garbage, you need lawn care people, you need tradespeople who know how to work on homes, you need the Uber drivers, the taxi drivers, the people who work in grocery stores, you people who work in restaurants. Like, all the amenities that we have in society are built on all these different little roles that, like, I think culturally don't receive the same kind of respect as the more prestigious careers like engineering, lawyer, doctor, etc. And so what am I saying? A big part of what I'm learning to do, just like the article is titled, is I'm just learning to accept who I am. And we will always, even if I were a doctor or an engineer or a lawyer, there would still be people in the world who would find a way to devalue what I do and marginalize what I do. And this is something that I learned growing up. Like, it doesn't matter it didn't matter what I did growing up as a kid. People always thought of me as the fat kid. And people always disrespected me because of it. Didn't matter what else I did. Didn't matter how much I worked out. Didn't matter how good of grades that I made in school. People still found a way to bully me and belittle me. And so the older I get, the less I care about those cultural norms. But in saying that, I still struggle with this, and it's taken. I mean, I left engineering in 2006, and now 18 years later, from time to time, especially when things come up where I feel like money would more easily solve the problem. Like, if I had more money, the car would be easier to fix, or we could have a nicer place to live, me and my wife, or maybe my wife wouldn't have to work or worry about making more money herself. Whenever money things come up, I always think about, man, if I were still an engineer. But the problem is engineering made me miserable. And I can't imagine who I would be today from a health standpoint and just from a vibrance standpoint if I spent 18 years doing something that made me utterly miserable. And I still say, strategically, leaving engineering and then joining the military was still strategically the best decision that I've ever made in my life. And I don't regret it for a moment, but I still get caught up in this cultural idea of what success is. And this is where we have to work on our own stories. I talk about it in my book. Let me grab the book real quick for the YouTube folks. But principle number 2 from my book: understand your story. Principle number 2 from this book: adapt and overcome. 3 principles to master the most important skill in life, which is personal ownership. Look, y'all, like, when I was making that transformation from engineer to something else that I would rather do, I constantly had to battle that old success narrative of, especially when I first started, I started working as a personal trainer and I wasn't making any money. And in the book, I talk about getting evicted from my apartment for failure to pay rent. At one point I was $60,000 in debt. Like, it got bad financially. And I felt like a fool because what I had allowed to be indoctrinated into my mind, the narrative or the story that I had was, a good life is a high paying salary, in a prestigious career. But success is a subjective thing. That was the ultimate thing that I learned. And I had to define what success was for me. And I still have to work to define that and focus on that. And so if you're in a normal job out there and you're struggling, just remember, even if I or even if you ultimately go and acquire some skills to do a different job that maybe is a more prestigious career, I'm not against anybody doing that. But just remember, it's going to be harder to come up with the ideas, find the resources, and even have self-respect once you get to that place if you can't respect where you are. Like, you'll always be chasing more